We're now going to look at how to safely set up the inhalation sedation machine, and we'll start by setting up the breathing equipment for the patient. So we'll first take the tubes that attach the fresh gas pipe and the vacuum pipe to the mask. So at this end there's a discrepancy in length, and that's to make up for the difference in length of the vacuum pipe and the fresh gas outlet pipe. And at the other end, the ends are the same length. So you place the connector onto the tubing, and this helps to secure the mask to the patient's face, followed by the connectors that attach the mask to the tubing. You can see they're quite tricky to put on when they are the single-use items. The reusable items actually fit on a lot easier, but make sure you've pushed them all the way on to get a good seal. Once you've done that, you then can attach the mask. And again, just make sure that the big holes are on the same side and the little holes are on the same side. So attach the mask. And again, this is difficult if you're using the single-use items because they are a tight fit. So just make sure you've pushed them as far on as possible to get a good seal. The reusable items are again a lot easier to work with. So we're just showing there the connector moves up and down the tubing to tighten the mask around the patient's face to get a good seal. And then the next thing we want to do is attach the tubing to the fresh gas pipe, which are the big lumens attaching to the fresh gas pipe, and the small lumens will attach to the vacuum pipe, like so. Once the patient breathing equipment is assembled, to avoid it becoming contaminated, place the mask over the chair headrest to prevent it falling onto the floor whilst you continue to set up the machine. The next stage is to attach the vacuum pipe to the scavenging system, whichever system you have, in the same way we showed you in the earlier video. So we turn the flow on, like so, and we adjust the flow rate to the maximum, like so. On the mini scav, remember to press the green button on the machine to turn the scavenging unit on, and then we can move on to the next stage, the safety checks. So all machines should have a laminated safety checklist reminder, so don't worry if you forget which order to do things in. But the first thing we want to do is check that our full cylinders are indeed full. So here's the key that we use to open the cylinders to allow the gas to flow into the machine. So they have on and off sides. So the first thing we're doing here is opening the full oxygen cylinder, and you'll see here on the pressure gauge, as soon as that valve is opened, the pressure gauge will jump up to 2000 psi, and that is how you know that it is full. All oxygen cylinders are full when they show a pressure of 2000 psi. So the next one, we're opening the full nitrous oxide cylinder in the same way. And here you'll see that the pressure gauge does still jump up, but it will not go to 2000 psi. And the reason for that is in the nitrous oxide cylinder, there is a mixture of liquid and gas. And so here the pressure will jump up to between 700 and 800 psi. And that pressure is maintained until all of the liquid has been converted to gas, and then the pressure will begin to drop as it is used. Having checked that our reserve cylinders are full, we now need to drain the machine of the gases. So first we turn the flow on and set the mixture so that the maximum amount of nitrous oxide is flowing through the machine. Remember, your scavenging system should be on at this point. We then turn off the nitrous oxide gas cylinder valve, like so. And you'll notice here then that the pressure gauge pin starts to slowly drop as the gas drains out of the system. So it slowly drains all the way down to there. And then here the flow meter ball will also then drop as the last remnants of gas are removed from the system. So now we move on to draining the oxygen. So again, set the mixture so it's 100% oxygen flowing through the machine, and then turn off the valve on the oxygen cylinder in the same way. And again, the pressure gauge pin will begin to drop. You can speed this up by pressing the oxygen flush button, but I haven't done it here because it goes too fast for us to show you what the machine does as the gas is drained. So here we see the pin dropping all the way down to empty, and then the last remnants of gas as it flows out, the flow meter ball bearing again drops down to 0. So now there is no more gas in the machine. We're now ready to perform the safety checks using the in-use cylinders. So we're checking the volumes of gas in the in-use cylinders to make sure we have enough for the session. So again, the pressure gauge pins will rise up to the levels that are remaining in the gas cylinder. And again, the pin here has risen to just below 700 psi. So that means all of the liquid has now converted to gas. So first thing we want to do is check that the flow is working and the flow meters are telling us exactly what's going on. So you want to measure 6 litres by putting the line in halfway across the ball bearing. We then want to check that the mixture dial is working and mixing the gases to the correct proportions. So if you move it to 50%, the ball bearings in the flow meters should be at equal levels, which they are. Now we want to check the safety mechanism that prevents 100% nitrous oxide being administered to the patient if the oxygen fails. So you turn off the oxygen cylinder and we watch the pressure gauge pin drop as the gas comes out of the machine. So this all drops down. Remember, we've got the mixture at 50-50, so nitrous oxide and oxygen is flowing through the system at the moment. So both ball bearings should drop as the oxygen runs out, which they do. And you'll notice here that in a minute we'll see that the pressure gauge for the nitrous oxide is still on. So the valve is still open. And the mixture is on, and the flow, if you see, the flow is still on, but there's no gas flowing through. So we know that that safety feature is working. And when we turn the oxygen valve back on, the ball bearings shoot back up in the flow meter and gas is flowing through the system again. So now we put it back to 100% oxygen, and we can now check the oxygen reservoir bag. So you take the fresh gas pipe off the common gas outlet, put your hand over that common gas outlet to occlude it, and you can test at the same time that the oxygen flush button works. And this should then blow the oxygen reservoir bag up and it should not deflate. If it deflates, then there may be a hole in it. So as well as doing this, you also want to check the bag visually for any tears, any wear, any perishing. So we'll just have a good look around the bag, have a good feel, check all aspects to make sure that it's not damaged in any way. Once we've done that, all of the safety checks are complete and we can now turn the flow off, make sure the mixture's at 100% oxygen, and we're ready to go.